Hello and welcome viewers, I'm Pia and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the headlines this hour. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to visit Washington this week for talks with US President Donald Trump. Zelensky will also meet US energy and defense firms and discuss the Tomahawk missile needs of the country. US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey have signed a joint Gaza declaration backing a ceasefire deal. Mediators signed the document alongside US President Donald Trump, ushering a new era, as he's put it. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has stated that US President Donald Trump remains on track to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea later this month, as both sides try to de-escalate tensions over tariff threats and export controls. US and China have rolled out special port fees on shipping firms registered in either countries as the trade war between the world's two largest economies continues to escalate. The US first announced this fee earlier this year, and China has meanwhile levied reciprocal fees for US-linked ships in its ports. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has announced that the European Union will allocate €10 million to help establish a special tribunal to prosecute Russia's crime of aggression. She's also pledged an additional €6 million to support Ukrainian children deported by Russia and survivors of sexual violence. Torrential rains inundated Mexico last week, and the death toll has now risen to 64. Meanwhile, 65 others are missing after this tropical depression triggered landslides and floodings in parts of the Gulf Coast and central states. US President Donald Trump will be visiting Malaysia on the 26th of October and will facilitate the ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia, which will require both sides to remove all mines and heavy artillery from their borders. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai has stated that the recent claim by France, Germany and Britain about their determination to reinitiate nuclear negotiations with Iran lacks goodwill and sincerity. Alright viewers, those are the headlines in our top focus as Israeli and Palestinian captives return to their families as part of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. The status of many prominent Palestinian detainees remains uncertain. Calls for the release of Palestinian doctor Hussam Abu Safia, a hospital director in Gaza who was taken by Israeli forces in December 2024, have now grown. According to reports, Hamas has stated that Israel would not release Abu Safia. However, the Israeli media has reported that Abu Safia was among 5 extra names added to the list of Palestinians from Gaza to be released. The human rights watchdog Amnesty International has stated that the hospital director has been held without charge or trial under an Israeli security law after being arrested by Israeli forces at Kamal Adwan Hospital in Gaza, where he continued to work as a pediatrician after his son was killed in an airstrike. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Yossi Kuper-Wasser, Israeli intelligence and security expert, joining us from Tel Aviv. I wanted to understand from you, what do you make of these calls that are now coming in? There have been some demands as well made yesterday by Hamas leaders to in fact release a certain set of prisoners who are in Israeli jails, but now fresh demand has come forth for the release of this doctor.
Well, good morning. I think that what we are watching is the disagreements that were left unsettled between us and Hamas and regarding the list of the Palestinian terrorists that are going to be released. This person that we're talking about, the head of the hospital, the manager of an hospital, was considered by Israel as cooperating with the terror organization Hamas. And the hospital that he was in charge of was used by Hamas. So it's something that we have to look deeper into in order to make sure that everything that related to him was well discussed, and we can see whether it can be released or not. It's not clear yet.
Okay, sir, requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking further updates. Israelis have stated that it is the happiest day since the 7th of October 2023 with the arrival of the freed hostages. Israelis have expressed their excitement to see their relatives after 2 years. This comes as the hostage release between Israel and Hamas has been completed, and the remaining 20 hostages who were alive have now been released. Now, in exchange of the hostages, Israel has released nearly 2,000 Palestinians who've been detained or imprisoned before and during the war in Gaza. Vehicles and volunteers from the Red Cross have transferred the hostages to Israel and the released Palestinians to Gaza. Let's in fact listen in to what some Israelis have had to say.
Yeah, I'm very excited, very happy, so thrilled to see our brothers back home after 2 years. That's amazing. And to know that the war is ending. This is what we fought for two long years. To see our brothers back home, to see our sister that is still there, and to see the war ending, all the soldiers going back to their homes, everybody going back, all the refugees, everybody going back to their homes. It's such a good feeling and hopeful for the future.
Children, this is the happiest day we've had since October 7th. We are very happy that they are back. We are very happy to greet them, and we hope that everything is going to be better from now.
Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Yossi Cooper-Vasser. We're seeing scenes of jubilation, euphoria, elation on the ground. I wanted to understand from you, how were you feeling yesterday when this hostage prisoner exchange deal was taking place, when the 20 hostages who are alive finally met their families?
Well, of course, like everybody in Israel, I was very happy to see that happening. It's a lot of joy to see the hostages coming back, those are the living hostages coming back. Mm-hmm. It was not something that could be easily achieved, and it took 2 years to make it happen. And when they were reunited with their families, everybody here shed tears, and this was so emotional. It's amazing. We still wait for the rest of the bodies of the hostages that were killed while being in captivity. There are still 24 of them missing, and we hope that they are going to come back as soon as possible. They were supposed to be returned yesterday, and still today only 4 of them were returned, and 24 are still missing. And we are still having a lot of question marks about the implementation of the rest of the plan, the peace plan of President Trump. We are hopeful that it's going to be implemented, but the messages we hear from Hamas are that they are going to refuse to disarm. And this would mean that this plan is fragile and may not be implemented. We'll see whether the United States, together with Turkey and Qatar and Egypt, are going to be capable of forcing Hamas to accept the other elements that comprise the deal. And first and foremost, give up their arms, so that this lady that we just heard about how she believes that the situation is going to be better, is going to be true in what she envisages coming.
Indeed, and you've mentioned that the bodies of those hostages who are dead have not been returned. Israel has upheld its end of the deal. Meanwhile, we have seen 4 bodies out of the 28 being returned. Tests are being conducted to determine whose loved ones have lost their lives and whose bodies have been returned. But I want to understand from you, how does Israel plan to further take up the return of the remaining hostages?
Well, I don't think we are going to resume the fighting because of the delay in the return of the hostages, the dead hostages. Mm-hmm. We're just putting more pressure on Hamas to expedite the efforts to find them. There is a body now that was constructed just for assisting the Hamas in their search for the bodies. They claim that they can't find them, and they don't know where they are. Mm-hmm. And we have some information gathered by our intelligence about the whereabouts of some of the bodies. So we are going to deliver this information to them through this newly established body that is coordinating this. And I hope that eventually we'll find all the missing 24 bodies. I really don't believe them that they don't know where they are. It sounds to me really strange. They should have known exactly where at least most of them are. Maybe they have some difficulties with one or two bodies, but it can't be that they lost 24 bodies. That doesn't sound reasonable at all.
All right, so requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking further updates from the Middle East. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghei has stated that the recent claim by France, Germany and Britain about their determination to reinitiate nuclear negotiations with Iran lacks goodwill and sincerity. Baghei has made these remarks at a weekly presser while reacting to parts of a joint statement earlier issued by the leaders of the E3 nations. Listen in to what he had to say.
فکر می‌کنم این بر عهده سه کشور اروپایی است که هم در سیاست‌های خودشون تجدید نظر بکنن و هم نه فقط به ایران بلکه به جامعه جهانی نشون بدن که بازیگران قابل اعتماد و معتبری در عرصه مذاکرات و دیپلماسی چند جانبه هستند. در حال حاضر خب به صورت معمول من قبلا هم عرض کردم دیپلماسی تعطیل بردار نیست، اما اینکه مشخصا من میخوام خدمتتون عرض بکنم که ما ظرف روزهای آتی قرار هست تماسی یا رایزنی یا جلسه‌ای داشته باشیم. نه اینطور نیست.
Now this comes as the European leaders have described their country's decision to trigger the snapback sanctions mechanism, which reinstated UN sanctions on Iran as a correct move. They've also expressed determination to reinitiate talks with Iran and the United States towards a comprehensive and durable agreement. All of this also comes as US President Donald Trump has extended a clear invitation to Iran, stating that Washington is ready to make a deal when Tehran is. He has highlighted that the Gaza declaration has brought about a historic new dawn and has urged Iran to seize the moment, calling a future deal the best decision Iran could ever make. Tehran, remember earlier, had stated that it is open to a fair and balanced US proposal, although no formal terms have yet been received. The Iranian foreign minister in fact confirmed that ongoing back-channel communications are taking place through mediators. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Yossiko Perwasser. Interesting statements coming in. Iran has simultaneously informed that back-channel diplomacy is still on with the United States of America, but simultaneously has rebuffed attempts by the E3 powers to enter into talks. Why is it doing so?
Well, I think that the Iranians believe that eventually they are going to be able to get the approval of the international community for them to continue to have a nuclear program, military nuclear program, and to continue enriching uranium on the soil. That is the core of the disagreement, and this is, in my mind, not going to happen. The Americans are not going to support that. Neither would the Europeans. They snapped back the sanctions because Iran insisted on having the capability to, and the approval for further enrichment of uranium. And the Europeans and the Americans realized that this is for military purposes, and they cannot afford allowing Iran doing that. So even though there are back channels, negotiations, and all kinds of contacts between the parties, if they don't solve this important disagreement, then they're going to be stuck where they are. And the problem with Iran is that they are under a lot of pressure right now. It's, the economy is suffering because of the sanctions and because of the malfunctioning of the regime. And the public is more and more criticizing the government for the lack of ability to provide what they need. So it's a very dire situation for the regime. And they are afraid that if they give up on the enrichment, not only that they will give up on the nuclear project, but they will give up and lose face inside Iran. So because of these considerations, they refuse to re-enter negotiations based on the idea that they should let the inspectors of the International Atomic Energy Agency full access to everywhere in Iran. They should come clean on where the hundreds of kilograms of highly enriched uranium are, and that they would refrain from enriching uranium in the future. I think that President Trump's offer to Iran is based on the idea that the Iranians will give up on all these matters, and then the hand of the Americans is extended for cooperation and bringing Iran back into the family of nations.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time sharing your analysis of what's transpiring in the Middle East. With that, viewers, we're shifting focus to Europe. There are certain key developments coming in as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. Russian forces have attacked Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city again. The attack was carried out using precision-guided bombs that damaged a hospital building and knocked out power to more than 30,000 residents in the region. Russia has targeted Ukrainian power facilities in recent months, and President Zelensky, in the meantime, is slated to travel to the United States of America later this week. He's seeking advanced air defense systems to thwart such attacks. Meanwhile, the mayor of Kharkiv has stated that 3 bombs damaged the hospital and hit power transmission lines. He's further informed that 4 people have been injured. However, there are no reports of any casualties yet. A patient at the hospital has narrated what exactly transpired. Listen in.
Я була в своїй палаті, лежала на ліжку, збиралась вже, думала, що скоро буду спати. І тут почало літати дуже гучно. А потім перший приліт десь далі, і другий дуже гучно було. Двері повилітали, в мене вікно відкрилось. Мені просто пощастило, що в мене на інший бік палата виходить. І тому я сіла тільки дуже страшно, серце аж заболіло, так що дуже страшно. Не повністю всі палати були зайняті, але люди були. І багато хто постраждав від скла, тому що вікна повилітали і людям посікло, кому що, я так дивлюся. Була в бомбосховищі, там дуже багато людей, хто збирав.
With us on the broadcast is Mr. Glenn Grant, former advisor to the Ukrainian Defense Minister. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. At the outset, we're seeing Russia stepping up its attacks against Ukraine. It's targeted Kharkiv once again. We're seeing also scenes of devastation with a hospital now being hit with this. In the meantime, President Zelensky is visiting the United States of America very, very soon. He'll be meeting Donald Trump as well as energy and security firms and their leaders. There are, of course, there's a lot of buzz regarding the delivery of Tomahawk missiles. Zelensky will be outlining Ukraine's need for this. What are your expectations from this upcoming visit?
Limited, actually, because Trump keeps delaying handing over anything, and as you know, he's actually changed the program so that now European countries actually have to buy, or NATO, if you want to call it that, as a group, have to buy weapons from America and then give them to Ukraine, and this is ongoing at the moment, and I'm not at all convinced that there will be anything extra from Trump, although he's having a lot of problems with the Epstein files, and it may well be that he uses this for a big announcement to try and again distract the world from the problems of pedophilia that are crowding in on him at the moment. So it's entirely possible. Normal would be nothing, but it's entirely possible that we get a big announcement. But I'm going to add one rider to that, which is we've had big announcements before, but then actually nothing has happened.
All right. We're also seeing the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Kaja Kallas, recently state that the European Union has decided to allocate 10 million euros for the establishment of a special tribunal to investigate Russia's crime of aggression against Ukraine, as well as 6 million euros to assist Ukrainian children deported by Russia. What do you make of this particular move? Will it really help on the ground, or is it just optics on EU's part?
It's optics on the EU's part, because they actually promised this tribunal, I think, at least 2 years ago, maybe even 3. And so nothing's happened. And there's been plenty of money around. Since it's not a money problem, this is an optics problem, because at the moment the EU is floundering to support Ukraine in any positive way. It talks a lot, but actually not much happens behind it. We're still a long way from EU defense, for example. So I think optics, but money is money, and if it does anything to help, it's useful. But I don't trust it as being useful personally.
And there's an interesting report that has come out right now regarding China and its tacit aid to Russia. We do know that Beijing claims that it is neutral in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. It has not sent any military hardware to help Moscow's ambitions. But it has now been increasing exports to Russia over the summer of key components needed to make fiber optic drones. In fact, we're learning that shipments of fiber optic cables to Russia have grown almost tenfold between July and August. It hit record highs. In fact, 328,000 miles worth of fiber optic cables have been shipped between China and Russia. In contrast, the supply to Ukraine is a mere 72 miles. That's not all. China is also supplying lithium-ion batteries to Russia. Its supply is standing at a record $54 million, and in contrast, Ukraine has received a mere $11 million worth of lithium-ion batteries. Now, these are components that are used to make fiber optic drones that we're now seeing Russia use increasingly in this conflict. These particular components are used both for civilian and military means, and this dual use purpose is what circumnavigates and bypasses the sanctions that have been put by the United States and by European countries as well. What do you make of China's tacit support to Russia through this means?
I think you have to, when you look at China, you have to be very careful, because of the government is one thing, and the entrepreneurial energy of Chinese businessmen is a second thing. Those businessmen will sell anywhere that there is money, unless the Chinese government actually stops them. And so there have been no sort of rules and regulations actually stopping this work, stopping the Chinese exporting of any strength. China's government is actually starting to put some export rules on, which may actually limit some of those things to Russia, from the amounts that are going in. Now, why is it larger in Russia and Ukraine? Well, Russia is government money, so the government is buying everything it can. But Ukraine is private money, it's personal money, because the government isn't doing this. So it's small businessmen who are buying things from China. So the actual amounts are going to be much, much less, because this is just supporting a unit on the front line. So they're buying smaller quantities, and they don't have as much free cash or oil, in Russia's case, to buy the things that they need.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking our time sharing your analysis of what's transpiring as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. Shifting focus to what's taking place in India. Google will invest $15 billion in India over the next 5 years. The tech titan has announced a massive data center and AI hub in Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. Google Cloud CEO Thomas Kurian has called it the company's largest AI investment outside the United States of America. He stated that the hub would begin at a gigawatt scale and could expand further. India's Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has welcomed the move, stating that it supports the nation's AI goals. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has called it a proud moment for the state. Meanwhile, State Tech Minister Nara Lokesh has described the deal as game-changing. India's AI sector is booming, with over 900 million internet users expected by year-end. Major AI players like Anthropic, OpenAI and Perplexity are also expanding their footprint in India. Anthropic will open an office next year in India. OpenAI and Perplexity have also already announced partnerships as well. Meanwhile, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stated that India's tech ecosystem is driving global AI innovation. The country is quickly becoming a major hub for AI development. Shifting focus to more news coming in, this time from Madagascar. Madagascar's President Andry Rajoelina has stated that he is sheltering in a safe place after an alleged assassination and coup attempt. In a live Facebook address, Rajoelina has claimed that military officers and politicians have plotted to kill him. He has not appeared in public since last week. Nationwide protests led by young activists dubbed Gen Z Matter have shaken the island. Demonstrators demand that Rajoelina step down, and his attempts to ease tensions, including firing his cabinet, have failed. A powerful army unit, CAPSAT, has declared control over the military. Its officers joined protests in the capital, and in the meantime, French President Emmanuel Macron has stated that he is very concerned about the crisis itself, but has declined to confirm reports that Rajoelina was evacuated on a French military plane. Madagascar's military has stated that it's working to maintain order. Meanwhile, opposition leaders say that the country is now under military control. The situation remains tense with fears of further unrest.
Non, je confirme rien aujourd'hui. Je veux ici dire la grande préoccupation qui est la nôtre, dire l'amitié de la France à l'égard du peuple malgache. Et au fond, j'ai deux messages. Je pense qu'il est très important que l'ordre constitutionnel, la continuité institutionnelle soit préservée à Madagascar, parce qu'il en va de la stabilité du pays et des intérêts de la population aussi, pour que la communauté internationale puisse continuer d'aider. Parce que si l'ordre international et constitutionnel était rompu, on sait ce qui s'est passé, Madagascar l'a déjà vécu, ce serait évidemment les premières victimes seraient la population. Et à côté de ça, je veux...
With that, viewers, it's a wrap on this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.